All right. Happy Sabbath. Today is February 11, 2017. We are continuing on our study about Daniel 11, right? Declaring the end from the beginning. We are studying how to fill in the blanks of Daniel 11 in the end part that we've been studying, and we realize the multiple areas there that was not written in Daniel 11 is actually provided for us in the beginning of Daniel 11. Right? All the studies that we had done before we restudy them. So it was not that difficult for me to make this study because I have all this. I have a lot of notes and studies. Okay, you in your eSword you can actually go with it also when we go to some of those. We go through some of those verses, all right? Because you have it already. We actually downloaded it way back when we studied Daniel 11, the first parts. Okay, so we'll go. We go to where we ended last week. All right, this is where we ended. Daniel 11, verse 40 and 41. Because we understand at Daniel 40 says that at the time of the end shall the king of the south push against the king of the north. All right, so that's Daniel 40 part A. 11 verse 40 part A. That the king of the south. The king of the south is, right? Well, obviously we've been studying that. That's from the French Revolution. We know that's the king of Sodom and Egypt, which is France, because they became an atheistic country. So they became the king of the south, which took down the king of the north, which is the papacy, in 1798. And that is the time of the end. All right? And the time of the end still. The king of the north will take revenge on the king of the south with chariots and ships. Remember, that's Daniel 11 verse 40 part B. So the king of the north, obviously king of the north himself, which is the papacy, cannot go to war. He needs an army. So who supplied the army? United States supplied the army, right? With Reagan and Bush. Because in 1988 and 1989, then that was when the time they brought down the Eastern Bloc, with the symbol being the Berlin Wall, right? Right. So that's 40 part B. And when you're done with 40 part B, you go to verse 41, and we understand that, and he shall enter into the glorious land. And who is he? He is the king of the north. And he's going to come. The glorious land we've studied, it is United States. He will come to America and set up a Sunday law in America. And many countries is a supplied word. It's not many countries. And many shall be overthrown. So many shall be overthrown at the Sunday law. Right? So we understand that's verse 40 part A, followed by verse 40 part B right here. This has already been fulfilled. And so we're living in this time here between verse 40 part B and verse 41. And to fill in all these gaps right here, the gaps in between here, we have to use other parts of the Bible, right? For example, Ezra 7:9, right? We find out, we fill in the details of midnight cry. And then knowing the story of the Millerites in Samuel Snow, right? We fill in the details of and Josiah Litch and all these. Understanding the Millerite history will fill in the details of what happens in this time period. All right? Okay. Knowing the story of the two sticks. Knowing the story of, Ruth and Naomi. Knowing the story of Esther fills in a lot of the details in here, right? That's what we've been studying. What, for the last 3 years? We've been trying to fill in the details of what's going on here. All those details we get from other parts of the Bible, but not from Daniel 11, all right? Okay, so we'll try to see if we can continue and fill the details of what we had been studying. And then that detail came when we started studying the time of the end, meaning that it is also the time of the end of the Babylonian captivity, all right? Because then the time of the end is also when the first 4 kings of Medo-Persia starts, all right? Okay. Okay, so this is the time of the end. King of the south push against the king of the north. America starts to rule here, okay? Prophetically, right? All right, this is 1798. 1798 is the time period at the ending of a time prophecy called the 1260 time prophecy that starts in 538. This is the rule of the papacy that ruled supreme from 538 to 1798. All right? And then the 2300 day and night prophecy of Daniel 8:14 is from 457 BC until 1844. All right? At 457 BC, who was the king of Medo-Persia at that time? Artaxerxes, right? Artaxerxes, yeah. Artaxerxes, okay. Right, that's the third decree. Okay, so we know that at the end of the time, this is also the time of the end, because there was Darius and Cyrus. All right, Darius and Cyrus. So when we look at Daniel 11, we go to Daniel 11 verse 1. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to condemn or confirm and strengthen him. So this is the first year of Cyrus, right? That's also the time of the Darius and Cyrus here. See, there's 2, Darius and Cyrus. At the time of the end here, there's Napoleon and Berthier. In 1989, there's Reagan and Bush, right? So this is Darius and Cyrus. And what does verse 11, verse 2 say? And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings. And who are the 3 kings after Cyrus? Cambyses, Pholsmerdes, and Darius. And the 4th, which is Xerxes, shall be far richer than they all. So this guy, Xerxes, will be far richer than all these others. Was that true? Yes, he was true. And by his strength and his riches, he shall stir up the realm of Grecia. He's going to go and fight Grecia, right? He's going to stir up Grecia. And he's going to fight Grecia, right? And that happened at the time of Xerxes? Of course. He went and fought against Greece, and he lost big time, right? And what else do we know about Xerxes? Who is he in the Bible? He is Ahasuerus. And who is Ahasuerus? He is married to Esther. And during the time of Xerxes is when Haman started casting lots to find a good day to kill the Jews. And he set up a 50-foot gallows, right? And that symbolizes what? That symbolizes the Sunday law. So when you study the book of Esther, you know that the Sunday law is typified by Xerxes. So during the reign of Xerxes, the Sunday law will come, all right? Prophetically. All right, okay. And we know he's far richer than all of them. And he's going to stir up the realm of Grecia. He's going to make Grecia mad, right? And Grecia means the world. Okay. And we know if this king brings in the Sunday law, there's another king that's going to bring the Sunday law also, because the Sunday law is typified by Jesus' crucifixion. And there's Caesars that bring in the Sunday law. And we find that in Daniel 11 starting verse 14. So you should realize, going back to the beginning of Daniel, we look, wait a minute, there's 4 Roman rulers, and that 4th one will bring in the Sunday law, because the Sunday law is typified by Jesus being crucified. All right, let's read Daniel 11 verse 14. And the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves, then will establish the vision. So who is the bad guy in the whole vision? Who is the robbers of thy people that will establish the vision? It is Rome. It's going to be Rome from this time on all the way until the end. It's going to be Rome, right? Rome is establishing the vision. All right, jumping to verse 16. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land. And when we studied Daniel, way back when we studied Daniel 11, we realized that this is Pompey. When Pompey first conquered the Seleucids, right? After he conquers the Seleucid, which is the Syrian, which is controlled Babylon, what country did he come in? He came in and conquered Israel, right? He conquered Israel, right? So there you go, in verse 16. And he will stand in the glorious land, right? He came and conquered Israel. Right, so this is Pompey right here, right? Okay, and after that, who comes afterwards? That's in verse 17. And he shall also set his face to enter the strength of his whole kingdom. That's Egypt. So first he conquers the Seleucids, and then he conquers Israel, and then he conquers Egypt. Who was it that he conquered in verse 17? Egypt. Who was it that he conquered also? And he corrupted the daughter of women. Who's the daughter of women that he corrupted? Cleopatra. So who's this? This is Julius Caesar. So this is Pompey, this is Julius Caesar. Okay, verse 17. And what about, and we continue down to verse 20. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes. So who was the raiser of taxes that came after Julius Caesar? Caesar Augustus. And because he is the raiser of taxes, that was when Jesus was born, because Mary and Joseph had to go back to Bethlehem because they had to be counted for tax purposes. And during this time was when Jesus was born, right? Okay. And after that, in his estate, this is the raiser of taxes, all right? And then afterward, in his estate shall stand up a vile person. Who is this vile person? Tiberius is a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries, because nobody really liked him, but his mother used every kind of beguiling way to make it such that eventually he became the all right. So flattery is using underhanded methods to be able to come up and become the ruler. All right. So this is the 4th king. And during Tiberius' reign, what happened to Jesus? Jesus was crucified. So during Tiberius' reign was when Jesus was crucified. The Sunday law happened here. During time of Xerxes, the Sunday law happened there. That's why it all lines up. Because now, when we put all that together, we realize that 1989 is also the time of the end, right? 1989 is also the time of the end, because that's Bush and Reagan, Darius and Cyrus, Napoleon and Napoleon and Berthier, right? Yet shall stand up three kings.
Three.
Who's the three kings that yet shall stand up after 1989? Clinton, Bush, and the raiser of taxes. Is he a raiser of taxes?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Obama is the raiser of taxes.
People don't even,
Obama.
people don't even realize it.
All right. He is the raiser of taxes. And what happens? After him will be somebody who's going to be far richer than all of them. Was it far richer than all? Is he far richer than all of them? You know, when we studied this about 3 months ago, it was not election year yet. It was not election time. And then we said, it's impossible. How could this be true? It's impossible. This is not right. Is he a vile person? Oh, he's vile. And what do you know about Tiberius Caesar? He was an outsider. Why was he an outsider? Because he was not the son of Caesar Augustus. He was actually anak angkat, what do you call that? Stepson. He was a stepson. He was an adopted son of Caesar Augustus. He was an outsider who came in, right? And a vile and very immoral. So we go, wait a minute. It fits so perfect, but it's impossible. How could he win? We studied this before the election. And we go, how could he win? It's impossible that he wins. He's vile, he's immoral, he's an outsider, and he's far richer than all of them. It's already in the Bible. The Bible already tells you that he's got to win.
But he also used flattery.
And he used flattery. Oh, did he use flattery?
He was you want to hear.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He came in peaceably.
Yeah, it's that. So it's amazing that Daniel 11 was being completely fulfilled before our eyes. Even we were studying this before the election, and we could not believe it. When at the last hour it changed, and God said, "You better believe in the Spirit of truth." Right? He said to Daniel, "Believe in the Spirit of truth." Right? Because the prophecy history will follow what prophecy says, right? It's not the other way around.
No.
It's not the other way around. It's amazing how the Spirit of truth is the Spirit of Jesus, is the truth. Is the truth, right? Okay. So this is how we found out. Okay, this is verse 40a, all right? This is verse 1 and 2 right here. This is verse 1 and 2, right? This is verse 14 to 22. Okay, this is verse 1 and 2 right here. This is verse 14 to 22. Okay? Now, so we go back here again. This is verse 40. This is verse 41. So now we put verse 1 and 2, verse 14 and 22, we're filling in the details, right? We fill in these details. Just from Daniel 11, the beginning of Daniel 11. So the beginning, what? Will explain the end. I declare the end from the beginning. I am the Alpha from the Omega. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I declare the end from the beginning, right? So we're now declaring the end. We're filling in the gaps of the end from the beginning part of Daniel 11. All right? Okay. Now, if you think, we were completely amazed when we finally figured out verse 1 and 2, verse 14 to 22, but there's still more. Can you imagine? There's still more here. That's why we're going to continue studying, okay? All right. Okay. Now we go to verse 3 and 4. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion and according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the four kings of heaven. Now, according to Daniel, the book Daniel and Revelation of Uriah Smith, and obviously understanding this, and all the Bible commentators know what Daniel 11 verse 3 to 4. Who is this king?
Kingdom.
Yeah, this is Alexander the Great, right? This is Alexander the Great because Alexander the Great was the mighty king that stood up, right? And he ruled with a great dominion according to his will. Nobody can stand in his way. He went so fast throughout all of the, at that time, basically the known world, all the way to India and Pakistan, you know. But the problem is that when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided towards the four winds of heaven. It's going to be divided to the east, west, south, and north, right? And we know that actually did happen, right? But you know, symbols have many meanings, all right? What are the four winds of heaven? Well, obviously the compasses, the east, west, south, and north. According to Ellen White, the four winds of heaven is also the angry horse, right? And the four sore judgments, all right? So that has an application. Obviously, it doesn't apply here because this is talking about east, west, north, and south. So was Egypt, not Egypt, was Medo-Persia conquered by Greece? Yes. And then Greece was divided into four kingdoms, right? Four kingdoms. And not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion. This is the part that you have to understand what is being written here, because this dominion here and this dominion here is two different words. So this is why you need your e-sword to find out. You know, you need your you need your e-sword to know this dominion and this dominion is different. Right? Yeah. This dominion means to rule. So he shall rule with great power. He is going to rule with great power. Rule. He shall rule with great rule. Wow, I don't know what that. But anyway, this means ruling power. Right? But this dominion here is a different word. This dominion here means parallel empire. Okay? And not to his posterity. You know, his children are not going to rule, right? He's going to be broken, and his children are not going to rule. Nor to according to his dominion, but his dominion, his parallel empire. So his parallel empire is going to be divided into four, and then eventually it's going to be a parallel empire which he ruled. Okay, wow. There's going to be, so it's going to be divided into four, and it's going to be divided into a parallel empire. It's going to be shifted down, all the way down to a parallel empire that he rules, okay? For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others besides those, right? Remember, this dominion is a different word from this dominion, okay? All right, so we have to understand the four winds first. The four winds of heaven. Well, east, west, north, and south. And a mighty king shall stand up. He shall rule with great dominion. All right. This is Daniel 2. This is Daniel 7. And this is Daniel 8, right? And Daniel 2 says what this is Greece. And who is this? The ram and the he-goat. Right? This is Greece also. And this leopard. This is Daniel 2. This is Daniel 7. And this is Daniel 8. All right? That's all Greece. And this is basically the known world in those ages. This is the first true world empire. Right? So Greece symbolizes the world. Right? Right. And obviously, when he conquered the whole world, he did it so quickly. He never lost a single battle. And how old was he when he died eventually? He went all the way here, went down here, went up here, came back, and died in Babylon. Where's Babylon? Where Babylon is right here somewhere. Okay. Oh, here's got to be. There you go. How old was he when he died?
He was in his 30s.
He was 32 years old. 32 years old. He conquered the whole world and he never lost a single battle. Amazing. Wow. He drank himself silly.
He was
Yeah.
alcoholic. That's
Yeah. Everybody in this was alcoholic, you know. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. The story of Alexander the Great is just so amazing. Right. Okay. But anyway, what we're worried about is the scripture of truth. What does the Bible say? Okay. In Daniel 2, right? And the image head was of fine gold, his breast, and his belly was, and his thighs of brass. In Daniel 2 is very brief. His belly and his thighs of brass. And when you go to Daniel 7, there's more elaboration, you know. It's repeated and enlarged. It's a repeat and enlarge. Daniel 7. A leopard which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, and beast also had 4 heads, and a dominion was this dominion means empire. And that an empire was given him. All right. So now you expand a little bit more, and when you go to Daniel 8, it's even longer now. All right. All right. A he-goat. Okay. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he moved with choler, with anger, with swiftness, with choler. And he smote the ram and brake his 2 horns. All right. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. Who's the great horn? Alexander the Great. He was broken. And it came up 4 notable ones. Forward, the 4 winds of heaven. The 4 notable ones are the 4 generals, right? Towards the 4 winds of the heaven, because there's a general that ruled in the north, east, west, and south, right? And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. So all the way down to verse 21 and 22, Daniel is given the understanding of who this ram is, the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Was he really the first king? No, actually his dad was the king, but the first king means the great king, right? He was really the great king. And now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, meaning the 4 kingdoms that came up from the 4 generals. All right. Okay. Well, you know, this should be old understanding. This is not anything new, right? This part, at least, is not anything new. But I just want to add something that is add a little bit more detail to the story from history. Okay. Oh, well, this is the part that the part of the story of Alexander the Great, right? Xerxes was the last Persian king who invaded Grecia. And the prophecies passes over 9 successors of Xerxes in the Persian Empire. And next introduces Alexander the Great. All right. So it was going through, and the 4th king, he will be richer than all of them. And then there's going to be Alexander the Great. Wait a minute. What happened to all the kings between Xerxes and Alexander the Great? Right? So it passes through 9 of them. All right. Okay. Do you know the canon of Ptolemy? Canon of Ptolemy. This is the canon that was written that's written even and preserved in that writes down all the names of the kings, even from the time of Babylon all the way to the time of Cleopatra, right? All those times, and it's written down their years of reign, right? Here's Xerxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, wait a minute. How come in the book Daniel and Revelation, Uriah Smith said there's 9? According to Ptolemy, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only 6. Well, actually, what happens, the canon of Ptolemy only writes the kings that rule more than 12 months. So if you rule less than 12 months, you're not included in the canon of Ptolemy. So, okay, these are the kings of Medo-Persia, and these are the graves where they're buried, and you can still go there. You know, if you go to Iran, boy, you can go there. Can you imagine? Would that be a nice place to go? Wow, this is amazing.
At least Iran preserve all of it.
Right, yeah.
Even Daniel's burial ground, they preserve it. That's what
Yeah,
they
in the
say.
Susa.
Yeah.
Right. So this is
Iran's
Cyrus's.
gone.
This is still there. Cyrus's grave, and this is whose grave is this? I can't remember now. This is Cyrus the Great. Oh, this is Cambyses' grave, and this is Darius. I have the name here. Okay, let me see. Let me just get this right. I don't want to. Okay, this is Darius the second, Artaxerxes the first, Darius and Xerxes. So this is Xerxes. Ahasuerus' grave right there.
I thought
And you can still go there.
Successors were there.
Yeah. But how many kings were there according to history? This is Xerxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See, these are that's 9. There were 9 kings
Before,
after Xerxes. What does that mean? So, who is the 10th king? All right? Do you understand now that?
Yes.
Yeah, the 10th, number 10 is always very, very prophetic, because 10 also symbolizes United Nations and Greece,
Yeah.
right? He's the 10th king. All right, okay. So anyway, this is Darius the third, because he's the one that lost to Alexander the Great. Okay. All right. Wow. Anyway, I had fun looking up these graves. All right. Now we continue. And a mighty king shall stand up, which is obviously Alexander the Great. And he shall rule with great dominion. Dominion means rule, right? And then and when he shall stand up, his king shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion, which is a parallel empire. My point in here is that where is this parallel empire? What is Daniel talking about when he says, and it's interpreted in the Bible as being a parallel empire? Which kingdom is the parallel empire? All right. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the backs of it 4 wings of a fowl. Okay, we read this already. And had 4 heads, and the dominion and empire was given to it. We know there's 4 empires, and then it boiled down to 4, and then eventually boiled down to 2, because that's the parallel empires. So, okay, we'll do this. All right, this is a lot of detail here. Now, when Alexander died, he died at age 32 in Babylon. He gave his ring to one of his generals, and his general says, "Oh, who's gonna rule after you, Alexander?" And he says, "I'm giving this ring to the strongest." And he gave it to his general named Perdiccas. Perdiccas. Did anybody learn that in history? No?
Yeah.
World history?
I remember kind of.
Kind of, huh?
Yeah.
Perdiccas. Okay. But anyway, he gave it to Perdiccas. All right? So, they said, but he doesn't have a descendant yet, because the wife is pregnant and the boy is not born yet. The baby is not born. And what if it's a girl? Well, turn out it's actually a boy. But in the meantime, the baby was an infant, so they said we still have to have a king. So they appointed his brother, But the problem is his brother was mentally deficient. So he was not fit to be any kind of king. So they just made him a king in name. His name is Philip III. All right? And in the meantime, the kingdom, his whole kingdom, was divided into 24 different provinces. And it was called a satrap. And the leader, the governor of all these satraps is called a satrapy. I'm mispronouncing it, all right? So the Macedonian, there's 24 different satrapies, all right? Okay. But because the king at that time that followed Alexander the Great was pretty much incompetent, he had to have a regent. So one of his generals, which is Perdiccas, became a regent, right? So he had a regent and then multiple other satrapies, right? But what happened next is they had wars. And it's called the Wars of the Diadochi. Did anybody study this in world history?
I don't remember.
I had to study this because this is very interesting to me. Diadochi means successors.
Yeah.
All his successors. Can you imagine? There's 24 of them. They all started fighting. And because they wanted to become the ruler of the whole empire, they started all fighting. And there's 4 wars of the diadochi. And there's the Lamian War, Babylonian War, Coripedium War, Ipsus Wars. Anyway, all these wars eventually boiled down to only 4 kingdoms. So the wars of Diadochi and all these other wars, they boil down to these wars, the 4 wars of Diadochi, it boils down to 4 kingdoms: north, east, west, and south. All right? And there's these wars here, the Lamian, Babylonian, Corpedium, and Ipsus wars, it boiled down to 2. So from 24 down to 4 and then down to 2. Okay? This is a lot of detail here, but I'm going to tell you, it does make sense because it really tells you what it takes to be the king of the north. All right? I'm not just telling you this because I just happen to like to look it up, but it is important to understand what it takes to be the king of the north. All right. In the meantime, after they were divided into the north and the south, the north is the Seleucids and the south is Ptolemy.
Yeah.
All right. So the Seleucids and Ptolemy. All right. It's basically Syria and Egypt, right? Because the north is Syria and Egypt is the south. Then they had what is called the 6 Syrian wars. So this is the wars of the parallel kingdoms. The north and the south had 6 different wars. And I have the years here and the dates of their wars and who wins. Okay? All right, this is Antiochus I against Ptolemy II. It's Ptolemy or Seleucus against Antiochus or Seleucus. That's from the north, because the capital of the north is Antioch. That's why they're called Antiochus. Antiochus.
One word it came.
So they
Right.
always have that Antiochus beside their.
Yeah, or Seleucid. So they can have Seleucus or Antiochus. So when you hear a name Seleucus or Antiochus, it's north. All right? Just you can remember that.
All the Ptolemies.
And all the Ptolemies are from the south. All right? Anyway, in the first battle, the south wins. In the second battle, they ended up in a treaty. It's called the Berenice Treaty. Remember Berenice?
Yeah, Queen Berenice.
Yeah, Berenice Treaty. And the third war, the south wins. The fourth war, the south wins again. And that's the Battle of Raphia.
There's the Raphia.
That's the Raphia.
Not
Okay.
the Battle of the Elephants, right?
That's the Battle of the Elephants. And the fifth war is Panium. And the north wins. Right? And the sixth war is when Antiochus IV goes against Ptolemy the Sixth,
Oh,
and they
that's
ended up in a line in the sand, because who and what
whatever
the Roman legate, he says, you better not cross this line in the sand. So now they really had no more power, because who now rules them?
Romans now.
The Romans. So they all fought each other so much that they lost power in both of them,
Money
and eventually Rome came up, right? So Rome ruled. Anyway, there's a lot of detail here, but it's gonna be important. You don't.
They're just fighting each other.
They're just fighting each other.
And Rome's just like, eh.
And then Rome said eventually, okay, yeah. And then Rome just defeated them both. Right.
the same as the Israelites. They
Yeah.
fought with each other.
Okay. All right. Now,
In Rome.
let's see, how are we doing with time? Oh, we're fine. Okay. All right. This is from Uriah Smith, Daniel and Revelation. The kingdom was divided, but not for his posterity. It was plucked up for others besides those. Within a few years after his death, all his posterity had fallen victims. We know all this. All right?
Alexander.
The kingdom was rent into 4 divisions and taken possession of by Alexander's 4 ablest and perhaps most ambitious and unprincipled generals. Cassander, that's green.
Yeah. It was,
Cassander, that's kind of bluish. That's wrong. Anyway, green right here. All right? And then Lysimachus is kind of, this is west. I guess that you could say this is north. Seleucus is east. And Ptolemy is south. So this is west, north, east, and south.
So under
Alright.
Alexander, it's all south?
No, Alexandria is the Alexander ruled everything before.
Okay.
And then it was divided into 24, and they all fought each other. And finally, the ones that was sifted to the top, the cream of the crop, that's like the 4 that became the major countries are these 4, right? Cassander, these generals, they became kings. Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. Cassander in the west, which is Greece. Lysimachus is in Thrace, which is what do you call Turkey, right? Turkey. Thrace is Turkey, and Seleucus basically controls all of Asia. And he's the biggest actually. And then Ptolemy controls the south. All right. In the meantime, this is Alexander's son, right, with the mom, which is Roxanne, right? As long as they're still alive, everybody's still not going to fight each other, still thinking that there is a king that could potentially be king, right?
So these are Alexander's 4 kingdoms.
Yeah, 4 kingdoms, okay. So that's Cassander, that's Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy, all right? Okay, all right. In the meantime, the regent was Perdiccas. Okay, all right. Seleucus, at this time, he was only like a senior officer. What he did was he went and killed Perdiccas, the regent, all right? So everybody is mad at him because some are mad, some actually helped him kill Perdiccas, which is the regent. So what he did was he went and hid in the south in Egypt under the protection of Ptolemy, right? This is actually very important because then he becomes the general of Ptolemy and he becomes the naval commander in the kingdom of Ptolemy in the south.
Who is this?
Seleucus. He was only a senior. He was not a general. He was actually a senior officer, right? And so this area here, everybody fought each other here, and eventually was ruled by a general called Antigonus. All right, believe me, you don't have to memorize that. But anyway, it was Antigonus. All right, but Seleucus, he's hiding in Egypt. he becomes a general of Ptolemy. All right? Okay. Because the Bible now says, okay, or here. In the meantime, Cassander then kills Roxanne and the son. So his posterity was gone.
No more.
There's no more. There's no more posterity.
Yeah, no more posterity.
So when there's no more posterity, now everybody starts really fighting. They start really fighting. They say, okay, now we can take the kingdom because there's no more posterity. Now one of us is going to be the king of Greece, right? So they start fighting each other. All right. Let's see. So that's gone. Now they start fighting. Okay, this is how they fight. All right, remember Seleucus, he's actually hiding here. And the king of the south, right, that's Ptolemy, right? He shall be strong. And one of his princes, who's this prince? He had a prince. One of his generals is Seleucus. Because remember, Seleucus, he actually killed Perdiccas, the regent, and he's hiding in Egypt. And one of his prince, he shall be strong above him and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. Okay? All right. Hey, can you get me some water? I'm just going to start to become dry here. All right. Yeah, he actually becomes strong. So Seleucus, he's hiding behind Ptolemy here. All right. So what is the first thing he's going to be? What is the first thing that he's going to do? He's going to go to and fight Antigonus here. And he's going to take over the east, right? With the help of Lysimachus. So this guy helps him, and he now controls the whole of Asia, right? So Lysimachus and Seleucus goes and now he controls the east, right? Now Seleucus now controls the east. Now you have the four kings here, all right? And then what does he do? Lysimachus and Seleucus goes and kills the successors of Cassander, right? So, right, they kill this one, all right? So that's gone. And the last thing, what does he do? What do you think he's going to do now? No, he's going to kill Lysimachus, his partner, right? So now, and this happens in 281, when he eventually defeats Lysimachus. This is important. That's why I put it in red there, obviously. Right, 281. Okay, so now you see how many geographical areas or how many kingdoms that he had to conquer he becomes now the king of the north. Because now he becomes the king of the north. How many kingdoms or kings that he had to conquer to become the king of the north? Remember, he was down here. He had to conquer east.
Four actually, including Perdiccas.
Well, yeah, Perdiccas wasn't what yet? Yeah,
Murdered.
right. Yeah, he just murdered, but he didn't take over a country. So he killed Antigonus, and then he killed Cassander, and then he killed Lysimachus. So he killed 1, 2, 3. You have to kill 3. You have to pluck out 3 to become the king of the north. You understand that now? It's very important because this is going to happen again. It's going to happen in the end of time. Because when between 508 and 538, when the papacy was ascending to become the supreme ruler of Europe and was able to persecute God's people for 1,260 years, how many kingdoms that he had to pluck out? 3, right? The Goths, the Ostrogoths, the Vandals, and the Heruli, right? It's the same thing. And he's going to have to pluck out 3 again before he reigns supreme again and start persecuting again. All right? Okay. This is very important. So that's why I went through this, because this is important to
And
understand.
that's one of the characteristics of the king of the north.
King of the north. He's going to conquer 3. Right? Yeah. Because he was hiding here. And that's why we went through all this, just to make sure that we understand. He was hiding in the south, and then he went and conquered 3. And then he becomes the king of the north. All right? So here, this is the Seleucid. This is the Seleucid. It's the majority of the whole kingdom. And here's Egypt. All right? That's Egypt. So, how is that portrayed prophetically? This is the beast, and this is the dragon, right? Yeah. This is the beast and the dragon, right? Okay. This is the king of the north, and then this is the king of the north. This is Ptolemy Soter, and this is Seleucus Nicator. You know, how do I remember that? Seleucus Nicator, that's N, that's north. Ptolemy Soter, S, that's south. Anyway.
Yeah, Nicator.
Right? Yeah. So so he's the beast. All right? So this is the king of the north, and now this is the king of the south. This is the parallel kingdom. And now they're going to start fighting the 6 Syrian wars, the parallel kingdom, right? So, before the time of Jesus, before the Jews were spread and taken out during the diaspora to Europe and all over the world, the king of the north controlled the northern geographical area. And the king of the south controlled the southern geographical area in relation to Palestine, right? But after the time of Jesus and the time of after diaspora, it becomes spiritual. Because the king of the north is the king that controls the ideology of Babylon. And the king of the south is the one that controls the ideology of atheism. Atheism. All right? Okay, so you understand that? Okay. Okay, we deliberately kind of went slow here because, you know, all these concepts have to sink in. All right? Yeah. So the king of the north controls the ideology of Babylon. The king of the south controls the ideology of atheism. All right. Okay. So the parallel kingdoms. What can we see the parallel kingdoms in other parts of the Bible? Well, obviously, there's going to be parallel kingdoms, because if the parallel kingdom is Medo-Persia, and then and then becomes Greece, that also represents America and the United Nations. Also, has that been seen in the Bible? Also, there's a parallel kingdom in Judah and Israel, right? Okay, so we'll see that. Judah and Israel are parallel kingdoms. That's the stick of Judah and the stick of Ephraim. Okay. All right. This is a little bit more complicated. All right? But you got to hang in there, okay? This is a little bit more complicated. All right? We have to know the history of the kings of Judah and the kings of Israel. All right. Okay. The representation up here is the literal kingdom of Judah and Ephraim. The first kings are Saul, David, Solomon, Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, and Jehoshaphat. These are the first 7 kings of Judah. Right? Because Saul obviously ruled over Judah. But then Saul, David, Solomon, and then divided. At the time of Rehoboam, it was divided, right? And who was it that ruled in the north? Jeroboam, Nadab, Baasha, Elah, Zimri, Omri, and Ahab. Why did I put Ahab at right here? Yeah. Anyway, well, it has to be. Okay, but anyway, it's very important. All right. I put it right here. It's really kind of amazing because when you see this, it will pretty much line up. Now this is the last kings of Judah and Israel, but now they are lined up spiritually. All right? Why? Okay. This is the last kings of Judah: Manasseh, Ammon, Josiah, Jehoahaz, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and Zedekiah. Now this is Jeroboam, the king of the north, Jeroboam, Zechariah, Shallum, Menahem, Pekahiah, Pekah, and Hoshea. All right.
So you're lining them up spiritually.
This is spiritually because this is not how they will actually line up. All right, because Hoshea actually happens before Manasseh, right? Hoshea is actually here. Hoshea is taken into captivity by the Assyrians way before the time of Manasseh. All right, but they line up here. Why? Because here Jeroboam 2 lines up with Jeroboam 1, right there. This is when the kingdom is divided. This is when the kingdom is joined, right? Spiritually, right? This is when the kingdom is joined. King Ahab became the king at the 38th year of King Asa. So there's a 38 right here. King Zechariah became, all right, I have to read this. King Zechariah, all right. Zechariah became king in the 38th year of Uzziah. So there's a 38 at the Ahab, there's a 38 of Zechariah. All these, remember Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat in Joel 3 is talking about the valley of decisions. The valley of decision is the Sunday law. When everybody will have to make their decision, the world has to make a decision, right? All right. Okay. Now Ahab is the king of the 10 tribes of the north, right? The king of the 10 tribes of the north, and this represents the world, right? This represents the world. Now, in the books of Kings, it says, I'm going to read this. 1 King 14 verse 11. Nadab of Jeroboam was killed by Baasha. Nadab of Jeroboam was killed by Baasha. All right? Nadab, who died of Jeroboam, is eaten by dogs. That's 1 King 14 verse 11. So Nadab, who was of Jeroboam, was killed by Baasha and was eaten by dogs. All right. Go to 1 Kings 16 verse 4. Zimri killed Elah. Zimri killed Elah of the house of Baasha. Him that dieth of Baasha, which is Elah, Elah died of Baasha, shall the dogs eat. Wow. So Nadab is this eaten by dog here is eaten by dog here. And then, all right. 1 King 21 verse 24. What happened to Jezebel? Jezebel of Ahab is eaten by dogs. So you have 3 eatings by dogs. What does that mean? There's always 3 testing times. You're tested 3 times. They all failed it. Right? This is the foolish Nethinims. Right. The foolish Nethinims. They all did not pass their testing time. They were all eaten by dogs. Okay. Who else was eaten by dog? Judas. Right? Did he have a 3 testing period? He failed, and then he was eaten by a dog too. Right? So those eaten by dogs is when you fail your test. So he had 3 tests.
When you say the one that died in the city shall be eaten by the dogs.
All right.
The one
Okay.
that died in the field shall be eaten by the fowls.
Yeah. Wow. Now, who was it that killed? I mean, purged the house of Ahab?
Who purged the house?
Jehu.
Yeah, Jehu.
Jehu.
Yeah.
All right. So when he purged the house of Ahab, right? It was said that, okay, you have done a good work for God, but you still led the people of Israel into idol worship.
Yeah, right.
Because of that, your children will only reign for 4 generations, right? 4 generations. And his 4 generations, I don't have it written up here because then it'll be so full of names. Okay, his 4 generations, I have it up here. What is his generations anyway? All right, his 4 generations is, okay, all right, hold on, I'll get it. Oh, Jehoahaz, I can't remember. Jehoahaz, Josiah, Jeroboam, and Zechariah. This is his 4th generation of Jehu. Jehu, who killed Ahab's house. And who killed Zechariah? Shallum. Shallum killed the 4th generation of Jehu. So the 4th generation is purged out right here. This is why it all lines up here. Right? It all lines up here. This is very theoretical and very spiritual. Only when you, only after studying so many lines in the Bible, then you can see that this all lines up. This is the parallel kingdoms. All right? The parallel kingdoms of Israel and Judah. So when the Nethinims come out, in Ezra 7, there's 220 that came out. All right? 220 came out. So that lines up it, and they come out at the Sunday law. And then when at the Sunday law, it shows that there's the time prophecy of 2520 and the 2300 days also end. All right? 2520 minus 2300 is 220. Wow. Can you imagine all these numbers? It gets very confusing, and it's like wheels within the wheels. It becomes so confusing that only after you've been studying for a long time that you can see how it all relates to each other. Okay? All right. This is 1989. This is 9/11. This is midnight cry, and the Sunday law. All right? And then there's eventually the universal Sunday law. So there's going to be a parallel kingdom between midnight cry and the Sunday law. All right? Because as one kingdom goes up, the other kingdom goes down. All right? Okay. So since we already know this, how does it apply to our time period? Because we know that one kingdom has to be going down while another kingdom rises up. So this is the kingdom that started in, right, yeah, well, basically it came into prophecy, and it became the power of the papacy in 1989, right? To bring down Russia, right? To bring down Russia. Okay. This is the 6th kingdom. This is America. It becomes the power of the papacy, right? And it's going to end at the Sunday law. That's the probation. Its probation closes then. All right? This is America right here. Okay. Then the 7th kingdom is symbolized by 10. It's the United Nations. But that 7th kingdom is only going to reign for a short period with the 8th kingdom, which is the papacy. So how does when the papacy rises up again in the end time here, how many kingdoms would it have had defeated, conquered? 1, 2, 3. So to rise up, it has to defeat 3 kingdoms. It defeated Russia with the power of United States, and it's gonna defeat United States. Oh, whose power is it gonna use to defeat the United States? And it's gonna defeat the power of United Nations, and then it's gonna rule. And here it rules supreme and will persecute, right? After the Sunday law. Okay. All right, this is America. Probation starts closing here because it starts going down, right? How is it, why does United States power starts coming down? What leads to its ruin? Apostasy, right? National apostasy will have to follow, is followed by national ruin. So what is the apostasy that starts here? There's going to be Sunday laws that starts, right? Yeah. But we know the Sunday law is going to be here. And then when it falls down, the Sunday law, when it is ruled that you cannot no longer worship on the Sabbath, this is the Sunday law right here, okay? And then America is completely fallen here, because the United Nations starts rising here, and then this is when the United Nations will rule the world. Okay, all right. Then the papacy will rule. Okay. Now we know this represents the 2 walls of Cestius and Titus, right? Cestius, the 2 walls of Cestius and Titus. There's the 2 walls of marriage and the Sabbath. How is the marriage wall broken here? Because it's the marriage of church and state, right? The church and state is broken right here because America will start making Sunday laws right here, and then it will break the wall of the Sabbath. All right. Okay. So that's one wall here. There's another wall here. All right. This is where we realize the line of Balaam comes into perfect alignment right here. Now Balaam, when he went and he started riding his donkey, where did he meet the angel? Right next to a field. What happened to that donkey when the donkey saw an angel? Well, he stopped. And what did he do? He went into the field. No, he went into the field. He went into the field. So what did Balaam have to do? He had to restrain that donkey, that ass, and put him back into the right path, right? Now you understand that the ass or the donkey is Islam, and Balaam is a false prophet, right? Because he used to be a true prophet, then he became a false prophet, and the false prophet is America. Where was it that America had to restrain Islam? At 9/11. So the first restraining of the donkey is at 9/11. Because George Bush had to restrain Islam right here. That's the first restraint of the donkey, of the ass. Right? And then after that, he went into a vineyard where there was walls on the vineyard. So there's 2 walls, right? There's the 2 walls right there. And what happened here? He stopped again. And then he crushed the foot of Balaam. Right at the wall right there, right? So he crushed the foot of Balaam right there. What does it mean that he crushed the foot of Balaam? he broke down the economy of America. So here, the economy came down here, but it recovered because America was still able to restrain Islam here. But then what happens? Islam is going to attack again, but this time the economy is going to be crushed. His foot is going to be crushed. All right? But then it's still restrained. The next time, what happens here? He's going to see the angel and he's going to fall to the ground, and Balaam is going to fall to the ground with him. So America is going to fall right here. Right? So you realize that Islam attacked here. Islam will attack a big time here. And you know, based on these stories, this is the reason why America will start putting up a Sunday law. Because of what? Islam's big attack. Yeah. There's going to be a big attack by Islam, such that the president will say, well, you know what? We have to have a martial law. We have to all gather around, and we have not been following God's law. You know, we have to follow the law. And whose law is it that they're going to start following? That's going to be Sunday law. It's going to come here. And the reason why, the main reason why it's going to happen is because all the house of cards is perfect, and then Islam attacks. So when Islam attacks, that is the pretext. That's the pretext for the Sunday law, right? The pretext. And it's going to happen here again. It's going to happen again. So when we were saying, you know, isn't the president behaving like a real dictator now? And his popularity is going down and down and down, right? Seems like. It only 2 or 3 weeks into 4 weeks, you know? How is he gonna bring a Sunday law? If you think he's gonna be there long enough to bring in a Sunday law? There's gonna be something that's gonna come. It's the external force. It's gonna be the ass of Balaam falling on his foot, so that now he's gonna use that excuse to become the dictator and putting on a martial law and saying that Sunday law is starting. That's all from the Bible, right? All right. So, okay, I think this is where we'll end, and we'll continue. Wow, we're still at Daniel 11, verse 4 to 5. My goodness, we're going to go to Daniel 11, verse 18. We got still several weeks, okay? There's still some more, all right? Yeah, so this is the beginning. We're showing that we know we are living right here. If you think 9/11 was bad, this is like a labor pain that gets worse and worse. Because the east wind is going to be like a woman in travail. And that's Psalms 48, right? The woman in travail, for those GYN nurses, you know what it is like. Oh, you felt it yourself already, you know. The labor pains is going to be getting worse and worse, and it gets shorter and shorter. So from here, you think it's going to be a long time to here, but it's going to get shorter, and eventually it's going to be hitting here too. It's going to be shorter even here too. All right? It's going to be shorter and shorter. All right? The interval gets shorter and shorter, but the intensity gets stronger and stronger. Like labor pains. That's Psalms 48. Right? The east wind, that's how the east wind attacks. Like labor pains. Right there. Story all from the Bible. All right, and that is the more assured word of prophecy. Okay, all right.
RC.
The piano is back.
that ye take heed, as unto the light that shineth in a dark place, until the day dawn and the day star arise in your hearts, knowing this first, that the prophecy of the Scripture is